Good evening. I'm your host, Frederick Loren. Since we're all strangers to each other, let's get acquainted with a drink, shall we?
Mr. Loren, I advise you to call this party off now. The ghosts are already moving, and that's a bad sign.
Let me apologize for my wife. She'll join us later. What do you have?
Scotch and.
Doctor?
I'll have the same.
Now, before the party begins, let's go over the details. The caretakers will leave at midnight, locking us in here until they come back in the morning. Once the door is locked, there's no way out. The windows have bars that a jail would be proud of, and the only door to the outside locks like a vault. There's no electricity, no phone, no one within miles, so no way to call for help.
Like a coffin.
Hello there, this is Stormdog, and this is our last week of October, or Spooktober as we've been fondly calling it. Each week I've looked at a movie from my childhood that fits the Halloween theme of the month. I'll try to leave a link to the other ones. This week I want to take a look at a haunted house classic, House on Haunted Hill from 1959. This is one of the more famous Vincent Price classics. His character, a wealthy millionaire, invites a random group of people to stay overnight at a house where multiple different murders have happened throughout the years. If the guests can stay the entire night, they'll get a very nice check for their troubles. In their first scene together, Vincent Price's character, Frederick Loren, and his wife, Annabelle, are having marital strife. His last few wives have died under mysterious circumstances. There's some bitter back and forth in the dialogue here that can be interpreted a couple different ways, especially on rewatch. It's a nice touch. Weird things begin happening in the house as Frederick shows the other guests where different murders happened, including one in a giant vat of acid in the basement, still full. We see ceilings that drip blood, ghostly apparitions, secret passageways, an entire section of the house curtained off, various decapitated heads, and much more. Throughout the film, some characters tackle the situation, believing there's a logical explanation, and others believe it's all paranormal. There are various twists throughout the movie, and some you'll see coming. Others may surprise you. Some of it at the end is explained away as just tricks by humans, and it works in the moment to moment, but it has the same weakness many scary movies have that turn out to be a human. Things like a gruesome scene being left for one person to find, but by the time they bring other witnesses back to see it, the scene has been completely cleaned up. One of the scary movies made a joke about this. Other weaknesses exist, like how did the culprit get from one room to the other so fast? Or not just that, but how did they get to that room and get set up to play a role in an elaborate scene in the 30 seconds since we saw them upstairs? I'm trying not to spoil anything here, and even by the end, if you think back through, there is a lot that is not explained away, leaving a strong possibility that the spirits really were at work. It's really compelling moment by moment, and it's a good sign that I spent time later ruminating how all the different pieces work together. It's still a really good watch. It provides a bit for both sides, those who want their scary movie to have an explanation, and those who want it to turn out to be paranormal. I'm not sure if it's the first movie to ever do this setup, the stay one night for the money plot, but it is certainly well known for it. The exterior of the house really doesn't fit the interior at all, and I almost want to see the movie that would have had the inside match the exterior. I'd really love to see what that would have looked like. The house is suitably eerie the way they show it at night. It's known as the Ennis Brown House. It's located in the Los Feliz neighborhood of Los Angeles. It was designed by Frank Lloyd Wright in 1942. It's been used in a lot of movies, including in Blade Runner, Karate Kid Part 3, The Replacement Killers, Black Rain, Rush Hour, and many others. It's so influential that interiors of it inspired or were outright recreated for various film sets, including Predator 2, The Rocketeer, and Mulholland Drive. It's even been used for a couple of music videos. The exterior is really a character of its own. The movie does well enough with the interiors that you understand the layout of the house, and it becomes its own memorable character. Vincent Price, as the lead, suitably eats up the scenery, as he is well known for. He has a great role in my favorite noir movie, Laura. He's the inventor in Edward Scissorhands. He was the voice of the villain in The Great Mouse Detective. He was in both of the original The Fly movies, and is most remembered for roles in classic horror movies like House of Wax. His final role was the voice of Zigzag in The Thief and the Cobbler. In his free time, he wrote several books on art collecting and cookery, his favorite subjects. He's most known for his gothic horror films, but he's good in whatever he attempts. Carol Omar plays the wife, and she was billed when she got into Hollywood as the next Marilyn Monroe. Around this time, this tactic was tried by a lot of studios, and none of them managed to upstage Monroe. In comparison to the vulnerable, innocent sex goddess screen persona of Monroe, Omar comes across as unsympathetic and hard-bitten. You can definitely see that in this movie. This is arguably her greatest movie role. She just didn't live up to marketing, and other roles didn't end up really coming her way. One of the guests in the house is played by Julia Mitchum, sister of Robert Mitchum. Richard Long plays the most capable character in the movie. He approaches the situation logically, and at the first instance of supernatural happenings surprising him, begins investigating. I really like the potential of his role here. He becomes so capable that in an integral point in the plot, the house, or maybe just the scriptwriters, have to lock him in a secret room to keep him from taking the whole thing apart. 1911 .45 caliber handguns are introduced about halfway through, and he takes to it quickly. It really made me think. The movie almost becomes a detective noir at that point due to this one character. I would have loved to see a movie like this with, say, a Humphrey Bogart, and watched him solve the whole thing and take everything and anyone in his way apart. It got me thinking how I would have solved this whole situation, and what tools I would have brought into the house that night, knowing I was going into a particularly dangerous situation. That's the movie I would love to see, and occasionally we see glimpses like that where the victim turns the tables. He was one of the lead roles in The Big Valley throughout its entire run. Like one of another actors this month, he also played various Kettle sons in the Ma and Pa Kettle series. He was also lead actor on Bourbon Street Beat, and continued playing that character when it was shifted to the show 77 Sunset Strip, making the first time TV ever did this, moving an established character from one show to another, kind of like Frasier going from Cheers to, of course, his own show, and was the professor in Nanny and the Professor. His film career, though, never really took off. He was a cousin by marriage of Lucille Ball. Carolyn Craig, one of the other house guests, sadly took her own life in 1970 with a firearm. She looked young throughout her career and was often cast as a teenager, such as the sister in the film Giant. She became popular by appearing in a set of photo ads as a healthy housewife, showing the health and muscular benefits of doing housework and how to use daily average cleaning tools as exercise equipment. Elisha Cook Jr. was another of the guests who inherited the house from his brother after his brother was murdered in that house. He has shown up in a lot of the classic noirs like The Big Sleep, The Maltese Falcon, and a lot of action classics like The Outfit, Emperor of the North, and Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid. He became known for playing neurotic or spineless characters. Due to his frame, he's been called the screen's lightest heavy. I didn't realize, but it was considered low budget for its time. It did make so much money, though, that Hitchcock was inspired to make his own low-budget movie and made Psycho. The movie starts with a black screen and about a minute's worth of eerie noises and screams. It was so effective that it started the business of novelty records that just had various horror-themed sounds on them. The movie became public domain at some point and seems to be on every possible free streaming service and has many good copies on YouTube. At some point, they also made a colored version. It's nice for details in some scenes, but overall, the film is much more eerie in its original black and white, and I do recommend watching it that way. I doubt this film will scare you like the sort of thing general audiences are used to these days, but it's still a really effective classic suspense movie that's still worth a watch. The effects in a few scenes are just what they had available at the time, but it does earn points for every bit of it being done practically and in camera, helping it to often still look mostly compelling today. If you like classic Halloween movies, you'll really enjoy this one. This finishes out our specially themed month. If you want to support the channel, take a look at our t-shirt line, Sticky. These designs definitely make a statement. We have two types, extremely goofy, and built different tales of valor from around the world. Check the link in the description or just leave a like. You're a brave soul if you're already subscribed. As I sit here and wait to read your comments, this has been Stormdog. Until next time.
When the door is locked from the outside by the caretakers, we'll all be forced to stay in this house until morning. If any of you decide not to stay, you must leave with the caretakers now. You won't have a chance to change your minds later, because there'll be no way to get out.
I don't want to stay.
Wait. It isn't midnight yet. Who told them they could leave?
They never leave before midnight.
Well, they've gone now. I was going to ask you whether you wanted to stay or not, but it seems that the caretakers have made the decision for you. We're all locked in now.